I want to ask you a question. Yeah, please raise your hand if you're mortal. Mortal, if you're gonna die. But because we're in Pае, by dying, I mean that we're only gonna live this life and this body once, and this body is gonna die. Let's check again, who's mortal? I'm really curious to talk to people who are not. But I can see that's quite relevant. I'm a death doula. I mean, you probably have heard about birth doulas, midwives. So the same way as they receive new life, I receive death. I guide people through death and grief in their journey. I've met a lot of people who are dying and then they died, and I've also met a lot of people who overcame the death of their beloved ones. And I've heard a lot of regrets that people face at the end of their life. But even more regrets I hear about from the people who are living and who witnessed the death of their beloved ones, about how they didn't have the language and the skills and the knowledge on how to talk about death and how to talk to the people that they loved and they wanted to say things. It's a little bit of a chicken and egg situation, because we fear death because we don't talk about it, and it's scary and it's unknown and it's taboo. And then we don't talk about it because we're afraid of it. So it is a chicken and egg situation. And I've learned that the only way to overcome it is talk about death. My typical Wednesday as a death doula looks like suicide for breakfast. And this is my favorite. I love working with suicidal people. But that's a different story. And then I have dementia for lunch. And then prenatal loss for 5 o'clock tea. I do eat in between, yeah. I don't eat them, no. And I love my work. I'm very excited about it, and I can even say that I'm addicted to it, because the rawness and the honesty and the intimacy and the pureness of the emotions I get to experience is addictive. I don't get to see that in daily life. And there are many deaths that I witnessed. They're very different. But I want to share a story about one death that I witnessed. So I had a client, her name was Thea, and her husband was dying, and he was 36. And they had a 5-year-old son at the time. And from the time that he got diagnosed till the day of his death, it was only 3 months. It was a very rapid journey that for a lot of people could be extremely challenging, terrifying, scary, and very confusing. So she came to me a couple of weeks before his death. He was already in hospice in Russia, which makes it even more complicated because death is very taboo in post-Soviet countries. And she came to me with the question that she discovered that need within herself to stay with his body after he's died and spend some time with his body. And she asked me, is it normal? Am I perverted? Do people do this? I'm so confused, I don't understand. And I said, yes, it is actually very normal, and it's way healthier to live it this way rather than when the body is taken away to the morgue straight ahead and we don't have time to process it. And we've arranged with the hospice some private space, unlimited time for her so she can spend time with his body after his last breath. And she spent with him 5 hours. And she was laying next to him, hugging him, kissing his face, stroking him, telling the last words that she really needed to release. And later she shared that that experience was as intimate, as deep, as beautiful, and sacred as giving birth to her son. That was her anchor during her whole grief journey of how much resources she could get from that 5 hours that she got to spend with him. And during the year journey of her grief, she started painting her grief, her emotions. She's an artist. And at the year anniversary of her husband's death, she made an exhibition that's a legacy project of his death. That's what emerged from his death, and that was very powerful. And also she made a photo shoot with his ashes, a very beautiful photo shoot saying that he's still part of her life, even though she did the grief journey and she mourned him. Another thing that she did on the 1-year anniversary was a death reprocessing session. Is when you go through the last hours before the death and the first hours after the death and you relive the story. She decided to share it with people, and we had 100 witnesses, just regular people like you and I. And she shared the whole details of how this last minutes before his death were, and how the hours of her saying goodbye to his body and feeling how he starts being colder and it changes and the tide changes. And people got out of it inspired, thinking and understanding that death is painful, is challenging, is terrifying, and tears us apart sometimes. And at the same time, it's also very beautiful, very sacred, very intimate, and full of love. So we spoke about mortality for like 7 minutes, and I don't know if this is gonna work, but I want to bring in some vitality in here, and I want to invite you. We're gonna try. I can invite you to stand up and maybe shake a little bit of the death off.